6'7".
6'7".
Yeah. Oh wait, he's 6'7".
That's crazy.
I don't like that.
Yeah, I don't like a big geography guy.
It could be so fun and so yee, and then all of a sudden it can be like, man, this is just awful, and it's just the worst feeling in the world.
Welcome into Overtime, presented by Perfection One. My name is John Bruce, alongside Shayne Combs. Welcome to episode 100 of Southern Ohio Sports Authority's Overtime podcast. Big celebration tonight. We're going to talk about three different things, and then some softball tournament. It's how we celebrate 100 episodes. What's it mean to you?
Well, yeah, it means that I do appreciate, in all seriousness, the spring coverage. It's been a lot of fun all year long, but the spring coverage is something that continues to be a unique change in our area, and I'm anxious to see where it can go. I think it helps baseball, softball grow in terms of what the fall and winter get. So that's probably my biggest excitement through everything we've done throughout the year. Now, with that said, you and I were already talking about next fall again and some of the coverage and so forth. So excited to see what brings about, excited to see even what the summer could look like. Are there little things here and there that we can continue to cover and bring and entertain and do some different things, just because I know how much even the off season becomes really, really busy and important for our student athletes.
Yeah, we will have a different podcast coming out in the summer that is towards the Chillicothe Paints Baseball Club here in Chillicothe. We'll have a couple different things here on the SOSA YouTube channel. But also, I know we've talked about doing some different things throughout as well. We're probably going to have to be some good teammates upon, in a lot of communication. But it'd be exciting to get out and see a lot of different things, because there's, the work people put in the summer is why you see these athletes have really good fall seasons, winter seasons, spring seasons. That's why. And also it's a time to maybe talk to some coaches and kind of see how their stuff ticks as well.
No question. It gives a really neat perspective to maybe give your parents of some younger athletes kind of a picture of what's to come, because it's changed a lot, and the ability to get after it in the off season and work in the correct way is really, really important.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that, we kind of want to highlight and celebrate throughout the year, but we'll get to that here in the next few weeks, because we got a big few weeks coming up left in the school year. A lot of big track coming up, a lot of big baseball, a lot of big softball. We'll talk a lot of softball, especially tournament coverage later on in the episode. As always, if you're looking to see whenever we talk about anything in our episode, it will be in the description below. You'll see some timestamps, and in those timestamps will take you directly to whatever we talk about. So if you just want to hear about the softball tournament, check out the description below, and we will tell you exactly when we break down each and every district when we get into that. I would say roughly an hour and 27 minutes from now. That's just kind of a rough guesstimate. Probably won't be right, but I think last week I was like dead on. It might have been 2 weeks where I was like, I just guessed something ahead of time and nailed it. Doesn't happen very often. I will say this, at VA Memorial Stadium, we have a home run song. And there's a player coming up this weekend for Indiana University Southeast. And I watched his practice swing. I watched the previous at-bat with what the pitcher had, and I just clicked over, had the home run song ready, and one pitch, line drive, just tapped it, knew it was gone, and it was luck, but sometimes you can look like you're smarter than you really are. So that's one thing that's pretty cool about VA Memorial Stadium, is there's a lot of opportunities to see some really outstanding athletes in our area. Shawnee State just was the tournament runner-up in the River States Conference baseball tournament, so we got to see them 5 games over the weekend. White Hop was really good from Eastern Brown. Actually came in and got out of an unreal situation in the bottom of the 9th to get them to the 10th, which, a few pitches later in the top of the 10th was, the game was over. Or in the bottom of the 10th, the game was over. But you get to see some really good athletes around there. Next week, we'll have the number 1 team in the nation in Denison in the North Coast Athletic Conference. A lot of really good players from around Ohio will be playing in that. I think it's Denison, Wabash, Wittenberg, and John Carroll, all Ohio schools. So a lot of Ohio athletes are going to be out there on Thursday, Friday, Saturday of next week. So if you get a chance, I think the weather's going to be a little bit warmer out there. Once again, you're probably going to get to see Adrian out there. If Sweet Caroline comes on, he's going to be belting it. And just overall, it's a fun time at the ballpark, and we really appreciate anybody out there who wants to come watch and then listen to my outstanding music selection.
No, it's a good time for sure. I do want to give a shout out to the people who given me some mixed bag or mixed reviews on the prom discussion. It was very educational to me. I'll say thank you. I appreciate it.
Now I'm very interested in it. So
well, just in terms of just to understand that, like, it's, you know, as times move on, kids like different things, and some, you know, some ability to get together, some pictures and some grand marches and some after prom stuff and all that different stuff, and you know, it was good. And then I was able to just say that if we could just get our kids to make sure their dates are from their own school and they have one prom to worry about. If you have an infield that dates a girl from 4 different schools, then you're going to be in trouble throughout the month of April.
I hope you're saying 4 different infielders date 4 girls from different schools.
Yes. Like, in other words, Zane Trace kids go to prom with Zane Trace kids, right? Like if Lynchburg Clay's infield, you know, 6 different kids are going and dating 6 different, you know, the girls from 6 different schools or what. Now we've got, you know, we may never play on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, but I mean that's part of the fun. Is
nonetheless, that was on last week's show, and I appreciate the feedback there. That was very entertaining.
Yeah, so check with the timestamps on that for last week. But moving on, we do have some discussion this week as well. One of the things that I wanted to start with is the pace of play in this age of spring athletics. We've seen it in baseball, Major League Baseball, where they have the pitch clocks. We had it in the tournament over here this week, and we had the pitch clock. You have a certain amount of times you can throw over. We'll talk about that as well. But we also saw it in softball this week, where it was a 9-inning game, an absolute instant classic. If you haven't seen it yet, go back and watch it here on our YouTube channel. We'll break that game down later on in this episode as well. That game took forever. It was a 3-hour and 48-minute broadcast that we had. And I think the first, 25 minutes was featuring the senior night activities and things like that. But that was such a long game. And we're getting things signaled in. One of the things I really liked about our last episode of the Haydenstone Healthcare Coaches Call-In Show before tonight's episode, which will be out, if you didn't see it last night, is out now. Yeah. 2 weeks ago's episode, we had Fairfield Union's coach and pitching coach on, and they just talked about how much they work with their catcher on understanding the game, understanding the game plan, so the catcher can call the pitches 90% of the time. We've talked about that on here before too. Now it feels like everyone on the field has to know what every pitch is via a 3-number code. And when you call that code in, everyone's got to look and find it on what inning and what pitch and what 3-digit combination for that inning, and then you got to remember to switch it. If someone didn't switch it, sometimes we got, hey, time, we got to go switch this out, and they got to go get a completely different card. And I know, I've said it a couple times, the one year I did it, I think we did it 4 or 5 games. I'm like, all right, I'm tired of having people have to switch out their cards every inning. What happened to, we're bunting? And you, as the opposing coach, you didn't look because you didn't care, because you knew, hey, this is a bunt situation. If we go field it, black, yellow, gold, 7-4-3, 8-2, and the catcher comes out and does all his signs and everything, and then you guys still have the wrong bunt coverage. You see the wrong bunt coverage all the time, and sometimes people don't know what bunt coverage there are. There's too much information. Just go back to the simple days. Games still probably took forever, but also you have kids that are, the center fielder makes a play in right center, makes a great play, just walks off the field. Hey, they're up first. That's going to take 2.5 minutes before we even start the next inning. Or maybe they make the last out. Well, they got to go. Well, after they get on base, they got to take off their elbow guard, their wrist guard. They got to get their hand mitt, their other hand mitt. They got to cross themselves 7 times. And then, oh, no, this hand mitt's not on right. Let me redo it before we can even get a base runner. And then you got Timmy coming into the box that forgot his pad or forgot his number code. So when the coach starts calling 364, coach, hold on, let me go. Or they reach in their back pocket. I don't know if I told you I'm like, why are we having 3-hour baseball games that aren't going 7 innings? If we're having a 3-hour baseball game, it better be 19-17 and there's been 45 walks. If teams are hitting the ball, why are we taking 3 hours to play baseball? Major League Baseball doesn't do it now at all. They go through these games quickly. Yes, they have 1,000 different rules on what you have to do. But I thought I was going to hate the pitch clock. But then when I'm watching games every day, I'm like, man, I wish we had the pitch clock. When I'm checking games on Game Changer, I'm like, I wish we had the pitch clock. Why is this taking so long to get in between innings? We'll play like 4-minute long songs at the VA that will play the whole song in between innings. Like, how does that happen? Come on, Blue, get them going. Something. Sorry.
No, it's a really when I pulled up the agenda this week and we were putting some of our different information in there, and I noticed you'd put this one on there. I wasn't sure exactly where you're going to go with this. What's interesting for me is
I'm sweating.
I have been where you're at, and I've been back and forth on my opinion on how I want to be about it. In other words, like, here's what I'll say about coaching. There are a lot of different ways to coach. So I'm not going to dare come on in here and talk to a coach about you should signal or you should give numbers or you should signal to your shortstop, to your outfielder, to your you do whatever I've got enough to worry about on my team, right? You coach your team. So I'm never going to get on here and do that. But what I will say is I've watched the game through the coach's lens and now as a media member and some fan and I'm watching different levels. I do wish we would teach kids how to think for themselves a little bit more. So I think what's happened is we've turned a lot of these really good athletes into complete robots where they don't quite understand pitch sequence. They don't quite understand, well, hey, they might bunt right here. Hey, it'd make a lot of sense for them to steal on this pitch. It'd make a lot of sense for them to be taking all the way. I wonder if they're going to green light the hitter here. And I'm not sure that even though our athletes are bigger, faster, stronger, are they advancing in the game in other ways? So I think what's interesting is really becomes the rule book. I see no problem at all. I think it would only help the game be a little quicker and a little bit more enjoyable to play, enjoyable to watch, enjoyable to be around. Because again, think about what we're trying to do in spring sports. We're trying to promote numbers. We're trying to get more kids out. We're trying to make the game more enjoyable. Let's just bring some of the rules into play. First of all, what you're talking about in between innings, that's a huge pet peeve. Like, it should not take varsity baseball more than a couple minutes max to get on and off the field, have a batter ready to step into the box, and have the pitcher warmed up and ready to go. You know what I mean? Maybe the catcher gets caught on base at the high school level. They come over. But again, at the varsity level, we should have gear laid out. We shouldn't have each piece of equipment, like a 10-year-old down in B League. You know what I mean? It should be organized in the dugout, and it's boom, boom, boom. And we've got someone ready to warm the pitcher up, and there should be happening. You talk about the disengagements. What's wrong with that in high school? Why not bring that to high school? I think that's a good rule. Now, I understand the pitch clock to become a technology thing, but I would also argue that it's okay to have an umpire with the clock.
That's what I was going to say. Is the last couple of years, I'm calm down now. Last couple of years, the umpires just had it on them. Like, it's just like keeping, I don't know if it was a stopwatch, how they were doing it, but we didn't have a pitch clock until last Pates season. So it was still a pitch clock. Every once in a while, you would just see them come out and do that or whatever signal it was. And that wasn't, so you didn't have to have like a whole bunch of different things. It doesn't have to be for show, but it would be a way to kind of.
Well, you can also you can make the rules to where it's there's warning. Like I know, like the highest level of golf, you'll have the best players in the world go on the clock. Like in other words, you're a professional golfer and you're playing too slow. Now, some people think that's silly. Some people think, what's it matter? You can do this, or this. Where, well, I look at it as like, well, there's over 100 golfers in the tournament today, and for some reason, you're the only 2 on the clock. Yeah. Well, like play faster. You know what I mean? Like be ready. Like so, it's not always about rushing what you're doing. It's just about having a little bit more pace into the transition of pitch to pitch and knowing a little bit more. It's fascinating. I don't know that I tied the two together in terms of what we talked about there a couple weeks back as much as I did this week in preparation for the show, in terms of it is interesting to see how much some of the players struggle to recognize situational baseball or softball. I had a parent of a 5th grade girl, so I'm not going to say the name on air because it's 5th grade kid, right. But like, this is a young lady that's going to be really good at sports. We'll know the name plenty soon enough. And they play Little League Baseball. And I asked them, well, I'm just curious because I don't know, why you play Little League Baseball? And said, because Little League Baseball is faster. Now, I will say that softball is getting a little bit better at this age, and she's going to end up playing softball next year. But growing up in the younger levels, it was faster. It was better. That's not even my opinion. That's just what they told me. So I do think you're onto something there. I think it could make the game more enjoyable. I think it could make fan friendly. A lot of different things. Maybe it's not our job to make it fan friendly. My main objective is making the game continue to get better and grow to where we can keep our kids participating in it as long as possible.
I was trying to come up with like a name, and every name I was like, there was someone that plays at around our area, so I'll just use let's use Johnny. Just go with mine. Johnny's a really good 3-sport athlete, but man, he's kind of checked out on baseball. Well, he's got a chance to go get some shots in 7:30 in the gym. Baseball coach is okay with it because he's just going to go get some shots up. Oh, they're in the 5th inning at 7:30. Like, that's going to lose kids. It's going to lose kids to other sports that are faster. Now, softball typically does play at a really fast pace in our area as well. Now, that game was, I think it was championship game, just kind of, it was a slower
incredible
pace.
Game. Yeah.
But it also, you can see why Shayne's an administrator and I'm not, based on how calmly he answered and kind of said similar stuff as me, but just not as in a ranting style like I did. But for me, it's just, you said it perfectly. Like, you're almost turning people into robots and they don't understand the situational stuff of the game anymore because they're so used to looking down and seeing, okay, what we're doing this right now. Yeah. Where for like me as a third baseman, I remember Paint Valley had a kid that I played with through Babe Ruth baseball. Really struggled to hit. What he was really good at was bunting. So what did I do? Moved in a few steps, even if it's not a bunt situation, because I know he's not a great hitter, really good bunter, good athlete. And then you take away the bunt, and now I don't know how many kids understand that situationally. I do think softball is really good situationally. I do think at this point, but some of the things.
And keep in mind when we're not talking about these two specific teams.
No.
It's just the thing that brought the discussion up. Obviously, anytime you're in championship games, tournament games, every pitch matters that much more. Everything. Things have a tendency to slow down and go a little further. You see it at the highest level of baseball, even with the pitch clock. So I get that. I think what you're talking about is night in, night out. Are we trying to promote a game that is miserable, or promote a game that's a little bit more enjoyable to play and for fans to watch and parents to watch? And you might laugh at that, but I've been watching a lot of junior high baseball here in the last couple of years, and it's one of those things where you get a lot of parents giving up their entire Sunday afternoon, and sometimes I'll see some frustrated parents that just want to see the game go a little bit more, and some of that's the age, but the the concept of what you're talking about is one that I would at least keep an eye on. I don't know if we're all the way there to put all the rules in, but I tell you, we're not that far off at the varsity level for sure.
And another reason why I'm thinking of it is our busing situations right now aren't great.
Yeah.
So schools are having a hard time getting places by that set game time. So if we're taking so long to play the game to where you can't play a full game within 2.5 hours, it's going to make a lot of teams lose or win 5-inning games that aren't by run rule, that are by darkness because busing issues, which is nothing the kids can do, but that's also taking away more time from the teams. Where, maybe if they showed up late, you get going really quick, do your warm-ups, and maybe shorten your infield, which I know a lot of people don't like to do. Sometimes it can, it can really impact a league race as well if you have games that are shortened more and more, because right now things are out of teams, players, even bus drivers' control. If the bus driver's got to go run a route and then come back and then take a team 45 minutes.
Yeah, well, and I think that's why there's so many different scenarios that we could probably make an entire show off of. I think the one thing we all could agree with, in between innings, hustling on and off the field, getting your equipment organized, doing all those different things, those are things that we can start to even teach at a higher level throughout the A-League, throughout junior high and JV, to where it transitions into the varsity level.
One spot on the bench, infield gloves.
Yeah.
One spot on the bench, outfield gloves.
Yeah.
Pitcher, catcher,
learning how to pick teammates up, all these different things.
That way, somebody, if Kelvin's left on second, he plays center field. Kyle, the right fielder, just goes and grabs the stuff, gives it. Coach goes over, gets the helmet, and we get moving.
Yeah.
And it's so much easier, and those little things on pace of play can really make a big difference.
No question.
All right, now we're going to move on to something else that I didn't even tell you. Like, at least I prepped you a little bit on the pace of play. This I didn't. Social media, as people in general, it's got to be used in a better way. There's so many different ways that people use social media for good. And we've talked about different schools that use it at an elite level. Some schools don't use it really well, but I see a lot of parents at this point. Everything's filmed. Everything's on video. So if someone misses a call in a game, people are going, and it's because for some reason Facebook just gives you stuff from everywhere now, because I follow baseball and now, so I just keep seeing stuff. I saw this thing from Tennessee the other day where it was like, could you believe how bad we got screwed over because this umpire missed this call? And like, you see the replay and it's like, yeah, like it's a bang bang play from 40 feet away through a fence on a game changer video. Why are we using social media for anything other than, like, I know social media at this point is just to complain and it's just a whine and it's just a whatever, but like, use it for some good stuff. I've seen people say like, oh, this missed call cost us. Look at this picture. Why? What's the point of that? What does that teach your kids? You're not teaching the kids anything any good there, just to put the blame on other people. Just why not show, when that play happened, let's see the next three batters and see what happens. How did you react to that? How did the coach react to it? Like, all of that has to do with the outcome. It's not just the event. What is it? Event plus reaction is the outcome. It's not just the event that is the outcome. Yeah, you got to have a good response. We have to teach people accountability, responsibility. If we don't, then it's just going to be, we were wronged in some way. And it's not just sports; it's everything.
Yeah.
And it's if something's not, if you didn't hold my hand through this is why I didn't get an A. It was because you didn't stand over me and walk me through on how to do y plus x equals z.
Yeah. It's another interesting topic that I have a hard time transitioning out of my coaching hat on, because throughout the entire career of coaching, John, and I feel like you're a lot of the same way, when you're working with kids or leading a program, you would always talk to them about how we have to make sure we're always accountable for our in-house behavior, right? In terms of how we go about it. What are we putting out there? What are we using it for? What are we exposing it for? But you're spot on. I mean, because we live in a society where it can go the other way in a hurry, and I think programs want to be careful to associate themselves with it. And for the most part, what you're describing, I think, is more personal use than program use. Is that fair?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So,
but I have seen some program use of it.
right. Well, and no, I'm not saying it's not out there, but I'm saying more times than not, that's what I've seen. I think what's interesting about it is that I talk to a lot of young coaches about this, and it's another thing that probably I understood as I got closer to the end, that I probably, if I was going to do it longer, if I was ever going to get back into it, I'd have no choice but to dive into this conversation a little deeper and figure it out, because I do think programs have to have some presence on social media in today's time. It's just part of who we are and what we do and how kids promote. We talked about wanting to get kids involved and excited. Well, this is part of it. And if used the correct way, you go. I'll tell you one thing I see is, if it's not for you, a lot of times if you can find someone who you really, really trust to do it in the right way, it's a great way to get more and more people involved. I'll give you a great example in our area. Take Adena High School, for example, out of the SVC. And I know most people in the SVC already know this, but for our viewers here that are all over our Southeast District, go check out the Adena Athletic Boosters on social media. They're unbelievable. And I mean, I'm not just talking like, hey, there's a game tonight. No. Like they're saying the junior high is here, the high school's here, the JV's here. Get here for this. This person's doing a fundraiser. We're selling this in the concession stand. And then after the game, here's the score. Here are the stats. The kids did this. Awesome win tonight. Hey, tough loss. Back at it tomorrow night. It's always a positive spin. Yes. But you can follow all of their kids, and I feel like I'm up to date on Adena daily. Yes. Just by just watching that and figuring that out. That's an example of how, if you're coaching in that particular school district, that partnership becomes really important. That's a positive spin. I think what happens sometimes is when some coaches start to get involved. Let's say a direct parent gets involved. A kid gets involved. Now all of a sudden it can become a little self-promoting. Now it becomes, hey, look at this here. Hey, look at this. This umpire called strike 3 on me. Where you see what I'm saying? A lot of times when those things are on there that you're describing, it really matters on who put it on there. Yes. You know what I mean? Fair or not, hey, who put it on there? Some random upset parent, okay, I don't love it, but it wasn't our program. Please understand that. You see what I'm saying? Where if it's hey, the coach put it out there, it's almost I don't know if that's where I'd have aired that. You know what I mean? Right. Am I making sense there? I think that there's a place for it, and it's really, really important in 2026, but you're spot on. If used incorrectly, it can really promote the wrong type of brand that the program wants.
Yeah, and you mentioned the Adena Athletic Boosters, which is by far the best one out there that I've seen. I'm sure there's others that are really good as well, but it's not always just pure sunshine. It's not, but it is a lot of, hey, we lost 7-5 tonight, but here's the kids that did well. Here's our next game. So it doesn't ignore the result of the game. It tells you what happened, and when they get the information out, they share it, and that's what that should be for. And it is ultimately for someone else to do, is to bring that up. And I know at different times that you can use it for, it should be to promote your team and the good things that are going on. And that's where I do think it would be better, or maybe not better, but wiser for a coach to find someone that's really good with the social media stuff that maybe isn't the head coach, because then it does give them a chance. If it's you get beat at the buzzer of a game and you feel one or two calls, well, somebody else could just put it out there the next day after you have some time to think about it. You can come back with a positive spin on the game, and then you can talk to your team about it as opposed to your team seeing, oh, coach said I was on the stripes.
Yeah.
They were trying to get us.
Yeah.
When they're going to hear that anyway, they're going to hear that from the other people, but the coach you shouldn't hear it from. The coach should be, even if they're feeling it, the coach shouldn't be sharing that part. Let mom and dad do that. Let their friends do that, because you're going to hear a lot more of that negative. So you need that positivity to be somewhere. But also, as far as officiating goes, it's so hard. It's so hard. Like I've been bad about it in the past, and try not to be now. And sometimes you just react to things, but just don't put it out there. Like if you put it out there, then it's not good. But if you get and you think about it, that's when negative things can happen, and you just want to stay as positive going forward, and knowing that those officials are putting in a lot of time away from their families. Yes, they're doing a job, but they're making a lot of travel, a lot of time, and they don't want to screw up as well. And every single thing that they do is watched tightly, where they're watching two teams, and the two teams are probably watching their team and only the officials. So you're seeing a lot of things. It's a very difficult job.
No, there's no question. It's a great topic, and one that I'm sure as we continue to do this show, will grow legs in a lot of different directions, because it can really domino effect into different types of discussions. But for the purpose of today, I think that's well said in terms of it's not going anywhere. It's important. When used properly, it's a bonus. Just got to be careful.
Yes, we agree with that. So now we're going to jump onto track in a way. And this is going to be where we're both baseball guys. You've been around a lot more softball than I have. I have not been to very much track. I admire everything that our track athletes do on, off the track, getting ready for the seasons, throughout the seasons. I want to ask this question though. What's the regular season mean? When you're going out and you're competing 10 to 12 times, I know you're trying, you're doing different things, you're making adjustments. As a baseball coach, could you go into a track meet and be like, hey, we're going to throw you into this event instead of what you're best in? Like, how much of a different thought process do you have to be a track and field coach? Because ultimately the regular season is all getting ready for that either league meet or the district meet. You're doing everything to get to that spot, where baseball, you're doing the first few weeks to get to game one, and then every game matters. Where I know every time you go out and you're doing your work matters, but your results don't always matter. So, what do you think the thought process and how difficult it would be to make that adjustment after coaching a sport where night in, night out, the wins and losses ultimately matter when it comes to your job?
Yeah, your record is what it is, and your seed is what it is, and your position in the league is what it is. I see where you're going with this. It's really good. I think, in fairness, track, cross country, wrestling, sports that have the one, because even golf has the series of league matches throughout the year that add up. Like the sports that have the one big meet at the end of the year, winner take all, that's kind of what you're talking about here, right? And then you're off into the tournament, and then it gets really, really serious. I think what's interesting about, I've had a lot of discussions over the last year or two about what would it be like to be independent. So what would that be? Like if your school was independent, not in a league, okay, what would scheduling be like? What are some advantages? What are some disadvantages? All these different things. And that's not what this is about. It's just the first thing that came to my mind. Well, in a way, the reason I say that is I mentioned that to say this. That's a little bit what you're talking about for about the first 2 months of the season. I think, though, in fairness to track kids, is your competitive juices take over, and when it comes time to compete, I have a hard time believing you don't want to win. Now, coach might tell you, for the good of our strategy throughout the year and in terms of how we're going to score at the league meet or how we're going to score in the district, I'm going to have you do this tonight. Next week, I'm going to have you do this. with where you're at in your development right now, I don't think I really want you running 4 events on 2 nights this week. So we're going to do this, and this. But that doesn't mean that they're not trying to win the individual races.
Right.
Now, obviously, those strategies are going to impact points, and then all of a sudden that's going to impact team finishes.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I have the direct answer for you. I feel like it's a lot of like tanking in professional sports. I have a hard time believing that there's professional athletes going out there on Sunday in a football game losing. That's not what we're talking about when we're talking about tanking. We're talking about the organization not putting the best foot forward.
Right.
So maybe in a way, maybe what I just convinced myself of is sometimes track is tanking during the regular season. But like in all seriousness, I think they just have a plan on how it's a process on building up to. So in their mind, they are still competing in the league, competing in the district all through this process because they know how they want to get their athletes to peak at the right time. And I'm not going to sit here and predict. No one ever looked at me and said, "Oh, I bet Shayne would be a great 400 runner." No, like I'm not going to pretend.
You
that,
did cross country. You did more than I did.
Kind of. But in all seriousness, like in terms of development, but no, you're right. I had people the other night when the temperature dropped into the 40s saying, "You think we're still going to run tonight?" And I was kind of like, "They're going to cancel the track." Like, what did you say? You know what I mean? Like it was. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm qualified to even say exactly, but just in terms of from a fan perspective who loves sports, I feel like those kids are still competing hard. But yeah, it is weird that, we have a competition tonight and our best kid's not going to run 4 events. Like that does confuse me.
Yeah, like injury-wise, completely makes sense. But as you said, it's so process-oriented.
Yeah.
From day 1 through day, it wouldn't be 180, but day 120, that you're working up to get to that day 120 or however many it is, where, in baseball, softball, basketball, you're hoping to get to day 120 through different things you're learning about your team throughout the season.
Let me ask you this. I know we're getting long. I don't mean to get off. So this is fascinating. Like, do you think it's a less is more thing, though? Because I will say this. Once you get to the league meet, if a league has a good league, like if a league has enrollment problems, that the track meet's kind of irrelevant. Mm-hmm. But when you get to the district, once you get to the district, man, that's exciting.
Yeah.
That is really exciting races, some exciting finishes, some exciting things. So, like, you almost wonder, like, if it's that less is more, like after you play 27 softball games or after you play 22 basketball games or whatever, not to say the tournament's not exciting, but it takes in track, it's like you've been waiting all year. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, now they're going to put whatever they think their best team is. That's how they're taking the track here tonight to go to the regional. Can't wait to see it. You know what I'm saying? So it does give some anticipation.
Well, and also you're also performing in front of a much larger crowd than you are for those 27 plus games. As maybe you get maybe you get to the state championships.
Yeah.
Maybe you get to the Final Four, you have a big crowd, but usually those are all over. Where if you get to the state track meet, you are in Columbus, where the whole state's coming. You're not going to Akron. You're not going to Dayton. You're going to that one place. Everyone's there that week.
Yeah,
and I think that can
That's
really
fair point.
raise up things and make things even more exciting. As we saw last spring, some outstanding results at the state tournament or the state meet throughout our Southeast district, and we're hoping that happens again this year. But kind of as we were saying, it's hard to track it for track and field. Throughout, because you don't know who's putting their best foot forward on each night.
Yeah.
But once the postseason hits, we're going to cover it, at length here on Overtime, presented by Perfection One. So now we're going to move over to baseball. Let's jump over to start our baseball topic with a little bit of the TVC Ohio, a league title for Athens. They go 3-0 with a really nice week. A 2-1 win over Vinton County, 9-0 win over Wellston, and a big blowout win over River Valley.
Yeah, big time pitching throughout the week from start to finish. They needed it earlier in the week, and then the offense kind of ended up kicking it into gear and taking some pressure off of that pitching staff. Wins of 2-1 over Vinton County, 9-0 against Wellston, and then the blowout win against River Valley. And I know they had a mixture of guys throwing. I know Klein and Heitland combined kind of split the game up against Vinton County there, had 11 strikeouts, and the northern kid from Vinton County was really, really good, tough luck loser there to hold that particular offense to just 2 runs. Because keep in mind, we just said in the next 2 league games they scored 29.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, that Vinton County team is going to be one you're not going to want to see in the postseason, even though their offense isn't really good, but their pitching and defense is really good, and that's a great win for this Athens team. I don't know why I went to this on that, but Izayah Orocho, one of the better hitters in our area, a 362 hitter on the season, just can really come through in big-time moments for them, leads them with 17 RBI, along with David Sharp, 2 seniors that are really important to this team, Cade Short, Mason Sweeney, a couple more seniors that are really impactful for them. It's just a really good team all around, and you're seeing that with another league title.
I think the theme you're going to see as we start to go through this is you get into some of these championship games, you see some of the championship pitching matchups, and it starts to give you a taste of what tournament baseball is in terms of, my best, your best, here we go. Every pitch matters, defense matters, every bunt matters, every execution matters because runs become really, really hard to come by.
Yeah, and like I said about that Vinton County team, they beat them 4-1 in 8, but they also beat them 2-1 in this last game. That just, to me, shows how close that team is. They had kind of a crazy weekend the week before on one of those rare doubleheaders. They lost 12-11 to Fairfield Union, who's one of the better teams in our area. And they lost 14-10 to Miami Trace, one of the better teams in our area. So they're competing, not able to get over the top there, but they're competing at a really high level. They've got Marietta this week, Circleville this week as well, and Jackson. So a really good week for them. They play Eastern Reedsville next week. So not taking things lightly going into tournament play are the Bulldogs.
No question. I mean, and that's just going to have them locked and loaded. And what's impressive about the Athens group is you study their week. I don't think they depend on just the one arm. So they're going to play just fine in a tournament setting if they get into a situation where they need the second and third arm. In fact, you might even say it could be their advantage.
Yeah, and sometimes the weather does impact things in a way, and that's what we're going to talk about a little bit in our next league, which would be the SVC. Union of Zane Trace gets bumped from Wednesday to Thursday, which opens up things for Pierce Manson to return after he did not go long on Monday, which was really good strategy and really good offense by them in that win over Huntington on Monday, because Huntington's a really good 14-win team so far. So they're going to be, when he's available, they're going to use him. Well, they jump out offensively. He doesn't have to throw 75 more pitches. They get some rain, they get pushed back, and Manson was unbelievable, but he wasn't the only one in their 2-0 win over Untitled, a 9-inning instant classic. Manson gives up 2 hits over 9 innings, only 1 free base, which came on a hit by pitch, struck out 9 in the game. Their defense played the best that they had played all season. Now, Zane Trace did score one of those hits in air, which I believe was the only air in the game as well. So Manson, who's usually really dominating, getting a ton of strikeouts, was getting 1 strikeout per inning, but his defense was making plays behind him and made it to where Untitled was unable to get anything across in that game as well. Lucas Euler, and I'm sure Coach Taylor would tell you he would do it 10 out of 10 times. So in the 9th inning, Mason Hartley gets hit with 1 out. Yeah, with 1 out. Noah Kaiser bunts him up to second, setting up Gunnar McCullough, who's one of the top players in the SVC and surrounding areas as well. He was 0 for on the day, put up the 4 fingers. He goes to first. Lucas Euler, who had the only hit previously in the game, then triples into the gap to score both runs. Hartley and McCullough score. Euler comes through with a huge 2-out, 2 RBI hit. And then that was when we mentioned tough luck losers, it would be Blake Sanders in that. He goes all 9, strikes out 11 in the game. The only free bases he gave up, that hit by pitch to Hartley and the intentional walk to McCullough, they both came back and score.
Yeah, we talked earlier in the year, for whatever reason, I don't know if it was because of how good Untitled was in some other areas last year, but we couldn't figure out why Blake Sanders wasn't given way more, credit for being an elite pitcher. If you know anything about this Zane Trace offense and what they've been posting night in, night out, that's an insane outing in terms of the 11 strikeouts. But you're right. Manson's just been lights out. And it makes Zane Trace a really, really dangerous tournament team because you've got this elite arm. You've got this unbelievable lineup. And again, I know Sanders and Union Defense got him in check that night, but this is an incredible lineup.
Yeah.
What I like about the Zane Trace team, two things that jumped out at me. You mentioned it. The defense. In a game like this, they show that, hey, if we do get caught in a tournament game where the other guy is matching our guy Manson pitch for pitch, we're going to be here to support him. We can catch the ball, we can throw the ball. Mm-hmm. The other thing, don't let the bunt in that last inning go unnoticed. The execution to get the runner over is what put the pressure on Coach Taylor to even have to make that decision in the first place. And it goes back to a lot of lineups. There are no-brainer decisions. The Zane Trace lineup just constantly puts pressure on you in terms of pick your poison of like, okay, if we can get through him, well, wait a minute, we got to face him. Now, if we get through him, well, wait a minute, then we got to face him. You know what I mean? And after a while, we talked about this a couple weeks ago about the Zane Trace lineup. They can just come at you from all over the place. So, yeah, I like their ability to defend, and I really like their ability in the parts of the order that needed to execute getting a guy up against an elite pitcher to allow their middle of the order guys a chance to do their thing.
Well, I feel like the lineup construction that they have now is very similar to that regional championship game or team from 25 seasons ago. As crazy as that's going to sound, and we're going to have some people not listening or not having an idea at this point of that.
Well, but you're dating yourself first of all,
but they now on that team they did have a player make it to Double-A and another player get drafted.
Yeah, they were.
We're not saying that, but
I understand what you're saying.
But
yes,
an elite leadoff man at getting on base. That's Mason Hartley. A two-hole that can hurt you, but also does a great job getting bunts down with like a Noah Kaiser. Your best hitter in the three-hole, which is McCullough. A little bit of thump in the four-hole, which is Euler, who could also really hit. And then you've got athletes that can hit 5 through 9. You've got guys that can run. You've got guys that can come in and get a big at bat. Blake Brower hit a home run the other day. Came in on Friday and got a base hit as well. I mean, you're bringing guys off the bench that can hit. It's 1 through 9 can hit. 2 does their job as well as anybody. And then you've got that really dominant high-end pitcher, a really good catcher. I like their chance to get through to, give themselves a chance in a final because you're going to ride Manson, who I think I read the other day hit like 90.2 on the radar gun on the last pitch of the game. And his off speed is disgusting. It's just it's a team that I think really maybe the pitching depth isn't necessarily there, and that's why they have some other losses. But when they have their best tournament lineup, as you said, best tournament lineup on the field, I love this team.
No, I agree with everything you just said. It's so funny that you're making comparison to, what'd you say, 01?
Yeah.
I was making a comparison to all my years run together. I believe it had been their 07 team. And no, they're really good. And I just think their ability to execute offensively when needed and their ability to just make the routine play is going to go a long, long way in giving them every chance to be successful no matter who the opponent is.
Yeah, because if you look back to those teams, they were not necessarily elite defensively, but they could get strikeouts and then they could make the simple plays, which a lot of teams have issues with, just making the simple plays. Sometimes you make spectacular plays. Sometimes you just don't.
And some of Coach Allen's teams that could really hit at 5 or 6 spots in the order couldn't really run. Mm-hmm. So sometimes you could try to limit them to play. You could play a little deeper, and you could try to limit them to at least try to play 90 feet station to station. This is a team athletically. Yeah. They hit the ball in the gap. You're scoring from first base. Yes. You're doing some different things. You're single. You're going first to third, and things like that. So the athleticism of this team's really good as well.
Even like a kid like Euler, who's going to go play offensive defensive line in college. that kid can really run.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
super athletic for being a little bigger kid, but he can really hit and he can really run as well. And this is a really good team. Now they weren't the only team to have a really nice week throughout the week. We mentioned Untitled having a really tough week coming up. They go 2-1 on the week, and then Huntington went 4-1 on the week as well. That team is really starting to come around.
Well, Huntington's another team that, the regular season, especially in the league like the SVC, it can really test your pitching staff early in the year. Coach Carroll mixing in some younger guys. They lost some one-run games. They lost some tight games. Here down the stretch, I'm starting to see more and more pitchers give them more and more of a chance to win. And I think that's what's happening. Now, what'll be interesting is as they get into the tournament setting, are they able to take advantage of what I thought would be this team's offensive strength from the get-go, and that's their ability to run. I noticed earlier in the week I watched them. They got in a matchup against a battery where they were able to get some good reads and really get the run game going and so forth. I think that's going to be a huge factor. I think the top of that lineup's really elite. And when they get going with McDonald, Hirsch, and company, they can really, really put some pressure on defenses. They have the big game pitcher in Oyer. He's been there, done that in terms of a lot of big starts throughout his career. And then they've got some younger arms that can support him if the pitch count gets up or they do get into a situation where they need the second and third. So, yeah, I think Huntington's starting to play really well at the right time.
Yeah, not a ton of huge strikeout pitchers. Now, Sean Davis is probably their top strikeout guy, one of their seniors. But Oyer keeps the ball in play. Tucker Hopkins keeps the ball in play. When Hopkins pitches, then that moves Troy McDonald Jr. into the infield. And then Frankie Hirsch goes from having great range right to left to just be able to go a little bit more to his left, and then you're just taking up the middle away because he's still got that great range to his right.
That's a good point.
And McDonald can cover everything in that 5.5 hole.
Yeah.
I really like the way this team is structured. McDonald hitting close to 500 on the year. Hirsch hitting about 440 on the season as well. Several other guys hitting 300 or above, and it just makes this team a really dangerous team 1 through 9. And then they're another one. They've got guys that can come in off the bench and run. They only have 13 players, but they all have a part of this team, and that's what makes them so dangerous. 14 wins so far in the season for Huntington. Wouldn't be surprised if they get to 20 or more as well. So, and another one, a team that had a really interesting week was Southeastern. They went 2-1. Every single one of their games came down to the last out. Obviously, everything comes down to the last out, but it's I know it's win or loss.
Yeah.
Win or lose comes down to that last play of, I think it was Untitled. They had the go-ahead run on first, and they end up losing that game. They win their next game where, defensively they were it was one of those, they get the last out, and it was a 1-0 game, and then they win on Saturday against Adina where Adina had the game tying run on third in the bottom of the 7th of that game.
Yeah, give Adina a lot of credit on Saturday. I did not go out to that game, but I was following that game. And I just thought with everything they've gone through in the last probably 10 days of the season, I thought that showed a lot of character. That lets you know that nobody's quit on that yet. Yep. And so they were right there with a really good team, a team that was in the regional last year and has probably the same goal of getting back there again. So Adina, hopefully they can find some good health here in the next week or two. I don't know what all those reports are, but that did jump out at me as a coach to see them show up and go toe-to-toe with a really good team on that day. Yeah, going back to Southeastern, it's a team that pretty much similar to last year, but a year better. So what I mean by that is they obviously have the elite arm at the top. He's going to give you a chance every single time he takes the ball. And then where they're way better than they were last year, in my opinion, is offensively.
Yeah.
They've had 5 to 6 hitters completely take another jump offensively. So now it doesn't have to be so perfect in terms of your pitching staff. If something happens that where you give up a run, you make a defensive mistake, you don't feel like, oh no, it's over. Like you feel like, okay, our offense can pick up our pitching staff here and produce. And I think you've watched that throughout the year against some pretty good pitchers. So what would excite me for Southeastern going into the tournament is kind of like what I talked about Zane Trace earlier. You know how good your number one is. You know how good that lineup is when it takes the field. offensively, if you can find the ability to support that's a dangerous combination. That makes them a huge favorite, regardless of their bracket, to have a chance to get to that district final and see what happens.
Yeah, and they are a team that they had Colton Baxter went 5 for 5 on Saturday in that win over Adina. You mentioned them being better offensively as well. Isaiah Cosby, a freshman, has really came on. Like, he had a nice little start and then a little slump and has been really good as of lately as well. And then, as always, we always talk about Gage Cheadle, Carson McCorder. Those
Cheadle's
two,
been incredible.
I'm blanking on the
Burns.
Braden Burns. They've got some really nice pieces, and defensively they're really good as well. So, and anytime you got a kid with like ability of Gage Cheadle at shortstop, you're going to feel pretty good on anything on the ground.
Yeah, well, and every kid you named was either not on the team last year because of their age, or is a year better. Like every one of those hitters have taken a jump forward, and I think that's a dangerous team. I wouldn't be thrilled to see that team in my bracket when it comes out this time next week.
Yeah, I would agree with that completely as well. So let's move over to the SHAC now. A big-time display by Whiteoak's Isaiah Clift. 18 strikeouts and a 2-1 9-inning win over Fayetteville earlier this week.
Yeah, he's really good. He's really continued to grow throughout his career. And you talk about teams you don't want to see in your bracket. That's why. Again, I've been on record here as, in terms of Whiteoak's lineup. Will it be good enough at the district level? I don't know. A lot of that sometimes, John, is pitching matchup. Also, keep in mind, sometimes when we say, is it good enough? We're not talking about winning games 10-9 at that level. Yeah. We're talking about games that are 2-1, 3-2, 4-3, right? I mean, it's so Coach Veit's teams are going to execute the small ball areas. They're going to give quality at bats. By this point in the year, they're going to become just a little tougher to strike out. Mm-hmm. But man, Clift has been terrific, and when you have that strikeout total, you talk about taking pressure off your defense. We talked about making routine plays earlier. Well, there's not a whole lot of plays, period, to make when a guy's striking out 18.
Yeah, he struck out 67 on the season. He's got a 0.34 ERA, one of the best in the SHAC, only behind one other player. Right now, they're 10-10 overall, and I think that shows just how young they are, because they're still a really young team. But they're 8-3 in their division in the SHAC, in the SHAC 2. A half game over Peebles and Manchester, who both sit at 7-3. We both really like that Peebles team, but Manchester, man, if they have a chance to get Luke Applegate on the hill, they are going to be a completely different team than you're going to see without him on there. But I still liked what I saw of them in that game against Minford.
I agree completely. As I've watched the SHAC this year, I think a lot of those top teams have been hit by graduation. We've highlighted that throughout. Mm-hmm. But I do think there's some programs emerging in the SHAC. And I think those two schools you just named would be right there at the top of my list. So I'm anxious to see how they match up, because we've watched them in some of their pitching. And I think it's going to give their respective programs a real chance to advance in the bracket.
Yeah, Applegate has struck out 60 and 30 innings so far this year, so he's not even throwing that many. But another one that's striking out people at kind of a ludicrous rate would be Thomas Barnhart from West Union, 77 Ks and 35 2/3 innings for the Dragons.
Yeah. Again, another team that maybe won't match up, but he will give them a chance to be very competitive in a game.
Yeah, like if you get stuck, you're going to see 2-13 West Union, and you're like, oh, okay, that's not too bad. And then you see them, you're like, oh, all right, that's less than ideal. Yeah. And because he's going to give them at least a fighting chance, right, on those days where with Manchester, with Applegate, they're really tough. But like they lost 9-6 in 10 innings against Huntington on Saturday. Right. So, and that was without Applegate throwing. So it just shows kind of the depth of what they had. We'll see what the depth that they have this week. Tuesday, they have Peebles. Thursday, Whiteoak. Friday, Fairfield. So it's kind of pick your poison on that. When does he throw? Do you try to get him to go Tuesday? Hopefully he could come back Friday if you can keep him at a certain pitch limit. I don't know.
That's tough, and you don't know what rain will do, and you almost just have to win the game in front of you and then see what Mother Nature is going to do. Chance of rain this week, I think in the middle of the week, if I'm saying that correctly. That's tough, John. You get in these league races, and you obviously want to go, but if you're starting to slip in some of the league races, you want to start to make sure that you are having that particular arm. We were talking about track earlier, right? In all fairness, to track, trying to keep their kids fresh and peaking. If you have one of those elite arms and you're getting late in the year here and you feel like that elite arm gives you an awesome opportunity to advance all the way to the district final, then you want to make sure that arm is rested and being used on the proper sequence to have them ready to throw their very best at the right time.
Yeah, that can definitely impact any league race as well. So Lynchburg has wrapped up the SHAC 1 title. They are now 11-0, 15-3 overall. They've done a great job of navigating their schedule. They've got Williamsburg at Fayetteville. They'll end their league play with Ripley. Then they go at Portsmouth. Then they've got Blanchester home, at Uniota, at New Richmond to end their regular season. So they are going to keep testing themselves throughout.
Well, I thought they really tested themselves in the middle of the schedule, and unfortunately they went through a little bit of an injury.
Right.
You and I are both big fans of the Faust kid in terms of what he gives them. So I like that schedule down the stretch. We felt like they were going to set the pace in their half of the SHAC. I actually watched them on stream the other night against the Whiteoak for 2 or 3 innings. Just an athletic bunch. Again, they can come at you in a lot of different areas. Really enjoyed our 2 games we had of them at the VA. I think they're going to be a really, really good team to follow in the tournament.
Yeah, I think we'll probably be seeing them at the VA once again, just depending on how the brackets shake out, which we will talk about next week. But we still got at least one more league to talk about here with the OVC. Portsmouth right now closing in on a league title. They are, I believe, a half game over top of... they're 10-2 right now in the league. They are a half game over Gallia Academy and Ironton, who have to play each other. So at least one of those teams is going to lose. Right now, road games for the Trojans this week at Chesapeake, at Fairland. Not going to be the easiest things, but those are games they should win. In their last league win, Trevin Brooks throws a 6-inning no-hitter, 10 strikeouts, only 1 walk, in a 10-0 win over Rock Hill to finish his last home league game as a senior.
Yeah, big time performance by another big time arm, right? As we start getting closer to postseason, it's hard not to peek ahead of that and start to look at what that team might look like in a tournament lineup. But first things first, a couple really, really big games, and we talk about it all the time. League rivals, particularly on the road. You can't overlook anyone because, as you said, where baseball is unique, no matter what the record is, you're still going to run into some quality arms. And on any given night, you're not ready to play. You can find yourself into that 5th, 6th inning in a dogfight.
Yeah, and this is a Portsmouth team, like all those teams in that league, really well coached. We're going to talk to Coach Camden on the Haynesville Healthcare Coaches Call-In Show from Gallia Academy. They've got a big week coming up, obviously, as well. But Trevin Brooks, first team All-Ohio last year as a junior. Eli Roth, Jacob Roth paced that team offensively well. Brooks, Jacob Roth, Leland Skurlock are big-time arms for them as well. We've got really good athletes. They've done a good job getting some extra athletes out as well. Even if they hadn't played for a while, at least they can fill a spot defensively. And then usually when you have really good athletes, they can figure things out throughout the year to get better and more effective offensively. And that's what's making this Portsmouth team really dangerous. 12-6 overall, 10-2 in the OVC. Great chance for them to win an OVC title.
And notice beyond Brooks how you're throwing more names in there in terms of outstanding on the bump. That just makes them that much more difficult to catch in the league and then to knock them out in the tournament.
Yeah, Skurlock threw some big innings for them last year as well. Ironton, as we've talked about, has a lot back from last year's Elite 8 run. I'm excited to see how these teams are going to finish the regular season, but also kind of where they're going to go because, like with Gallia, they're going to go to different tournament draws as well. So should make things pretty interesting. So let's jump to just some other leagues really quick.
Okay.
Green right now sits atop of the SOC won with one league game left to play.
Big swing from Knapp the other night I
Yep.
saw in terms of we think of his arm so much we forget about his bat.
They've got a big one. They still have Ironton St. Joe once again to decide. Ironton St. Joe, a really nice baseball team. They were able to knock off Notre Dame twice last week. Big wins for the Bobcats. Clay continues to play well.
I mean they're just a well-coached group and they're young, but as I said last week, what happens, John, is all of a sudden a freshman becomes sophomore becomes a junior when they start to get maybe 40 or 50 ABs and they start to get a little bit more comfortable at the varsity speed, and those young men are adjusting just fine. Again, a team that's going to be really, really tough to eliminate in the tournament when they have their A lineup on the field.
Yeah, anytime you got Evan Ryder on the bump, you're going to have a chance,
No
especially
question.
if you're Clay. And as we've talked about it before, sophomore in the leadoff spot, the next 4 spots in the lineup are freshmen. So maybe this year is the time where maybe they might be a little unsure of themselves. But when you're beating teams like Green, like Notre Dame, you're going to become sure of yourself pretty quick, and that's a team in the postseason you're not going to want to face. Any time in the next 3+ seasons.
You can't have that mindset. And I guarantee you, Clay doesn't. Like sometimes in sports, you don't pick the year picks you. You know what I mean? Like you don't know what the future will hold. The time's got to be right now for those kids because they've more than proven that they can win. The future will be there still. Whenever they're eliminated, but I guarantee you that team should enter the postseason with a lot of confidence.
Yeah, 15-4 right now. Still an outside chance to get a piece of the SOC 1 title, but most likely at least going to finish second with a very young team, and that shows how well coached they are and how talented they are as well. So now in the SOC 2, not anything completely wrapped up. Northwest gets a piece of the SOC 2. Sims Valley has 2 league games left that they should probably win both of those as long as they take care of business. Could see a tie there with as much of as a 4-game advantage over the 3rd place team in Eastern Pike, who's much improved as well.
Yeah, they are, but that's kind of what we thought would be the case there throughout the year. So we'll see if they can finish that off. We liked that group when we had a chance to see them at the VA this week. So best of luck to them. But no, I think we felt like those 2 teams would set the pace there.
Yeah, then Western just getting better and better. So that's great to see because that's a really proud community. So good to see them get a win in the win column this year, and then just will continue to get better the longer and longer that their coaching staff is in place and can get them going. In the SOC 3, nothing is settled yet at all. Minford and Lucasville Valley both with 2 league losses. Minford with 1 more league win. They've played both of their games with Valley winning both. So if Valley takes care of business, they'll get a split with Minford, but also bragging rights for beating Minford both times.
Yeah, no question. And the thing that separates that league so much is it's not just the top 2 teams and everybody else. Even though those are the 2 teams that might be competing at the top, as well as I do, up and down that league, anybody can get you. So that's what's made that league so fun to follow throughout the year.
Wheelersburg has dealt with a rash of pitching adversity throughout the year. They're still 12-8. You don't want to see them in that D4 tournament. South Webster is going to be a monster on the opposite end of the tournament. Right now 8-6, but they're just going to keep getting better and better because you've got Andrews, McGraw, Large. Those are outstanding pitchers. Roselle, different guys that can throw for them, and that's going to make them a big time depth piece in that in the lower tournament brackets as well. So they're going to be scary. Waverly's got 2 big time arms, and then they've got their top 5 in the order now that Landon Ramey is starting to get going. That makes them dangerous. And don't look now, West has won 3 straight games as well, so maybe they're getting healthy. They're figuring some things out. If that's your 6th place team out of 6, it's a pretty scary league.
Yeah, good league. We just watched that Waverly team in person the other night on our call. You can go back on the channel here and watch them play a good young Greenfield team as well from McLean there. I like what you said about the depth of that league because it illustrates the point that I was making of all the way down the West Waverly. Like if you pulled up our SOSA scoreboard, the North Fork scoreboard one night, and it said, that West or Waverly beat somebody in a 3-2 game, you wouldn't like fall out of your chair shocked, right? You'd be like, oh, good game. You know what I mean? Like it's just that's what that league offers you, and I think that's what separates leagues like that, like the Cider Valley Conference, some of these other conferences throughout that have the ability to do that top to bottom.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. And then we'll go to the Frontier Athletic Conference. Jackson right now is in a great position. They are a game ahead over Miami Trace, but neither one has a really easy road to finish the regular season in the FAC. Miami Trace has McLean, who, as we've talked about, much improved. They've got some really nice pieces.
Yeah.
And then Hillsboro is a very senior-heavy team. That's who Jackson has this week as well. Both of them will play Monday, Wednesday. And you never know what will happen in that, but it looks like Jackson has a really nice position on at least getting another share of the FAC title.
And when you talk about depth, why are they in that position? If I'm not mistaken, the Chillicothe over Miami Trace game is the X factor in that league so far this year. Am I right?
Yep. And Chillicothe beat, I believe, Jackson last year, which shook things up. So that's the team that you really want to keep an eye out. Really talented Chillicothe team.
Really like the McLean team too. They might be a year away, but man, I'm telling you, they're good.
Yeah, and then that Courthouse team, I saw them beat South Webster over at the VA. They've got some really nice pieces as well, so don't sleep on anyone in the Frontier Athletic Conference. We went over the SHAC. Let's go to the Mid-State League really quick. It looks like Fairfield Union closing in even more. The rain kind of shook off their chance to celebrate with a I guess I could have marked that as that they do have a share at this point. Rain pushed back one of their starts, but 10-1 overall, or 10-1 in the league, 15-3 overall.
It's interesting in the FAC, MSL. You get into some of the bigger schools. The thing I evaluate them a little differently on, fair or not, is as you get into the tournament, especially if you advance around. Now you're getting into some elite arms, right? So as you start, if you have some D3 schools, some D4 schools, chances are you're never going to just come up on a game and be like, oh, their pitcher's terrible.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you're always going to see an elite arm, and that really puts pressure on your pitching and your defense to not have one of those off nights at the wrong time.
Yeah, and then just going through that league really quick, like Circleville, who's sitting in fourth place right now, probably going to finish in fourth place.
Think how many times they've come out of third or fourth place and like made a huge run.
Right, and they just beat Miami Trace this week. So I mean, that's just Hamilton Township, good athletes. Logan Helm is one of the most talented teams I've seen this year, and then Amanda Clear Creek is a really fun team that's had some trouble closing out wins in the conference, but they're 5-0 in the non-conference, so they've taken care of business throughout. So keep an eye out on them. In the OVC, just throwing out, Fairland seems like they're getting things kind of figured out again. We've talked about Gaia, Ironton, Portsmouth as well. Coalgrove, Chesapeake, a couple more teams to keep an eye out there. The TVC Ohio, we didn't talk too much about Wellston this week, but Wellston and Meggs has some nice pieces. Alexander as well. And then the TVC Hawking, it looks like 2, 4, yep. Of course, I didn't mark that too. Congratulations, Coach Stewart. And
we
Eastern
talked about them.
Yeah.
We talked about them last week in terms of their championship run, and again, I think some of those schools are hit and miss. But let's face it, every single year you get to this time of year, and the Waterfords and the Southerns and your Trimbles, they start to come up there on the bracket, and that TVC Hawking, it's a good league. It's a good league.
A very good league as well. Now, I'll say this. We've got 3 people out giving coverage, or 4 people, I guess, with Raymond as well, taking pictures tomorrow. I might go out and watch a game tomorrow as well. So got a lot of coverage coming up here for Southern Ohio Sports Authority when it comes to spring sports as we close in on the most important day of the year. May the 4th be with you. I'm sure you're a big Star Wars guy. Hey, if you look at our little sign, I don't know if you can see it from here. There is a stormtrooper on there. That's a Jacob Bly's special. So we do have a stormtrooper with their presence here
Yes.
in the Chillicothe Sports Card Studio.
Well, that makes me feel way better.
Yeah, so you feel protected. So now let's jump over to a big time display that we saw on Monday night over at VA Memorial Stadium. We saw the first of two outstanding FAC title games in softball. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that game?
Unbelievable experience just to be a part of it, to bring softball to the SOSA channel. And, obviously Chillicothe and Jackson split the week and split the title at 9-1. They were completely the standard in that FAC this year, 4 clear of third place Miami Trace. And, that VA game, it started with what we thought it would be with 2 great pitchers with Rittiger and Taylor. But, as it went on, I thought the conditions got difficult. As I watched a little bit of it back, because I was just anxious to see how softball comes across on the screen.
Yeah.
I don't think in the booth I did a very good job of being aware of just how tough the conditions were getting out there on the field.
We had no idea. Like Derek told me as we're picking up pieces of the fence afterwards, and he did his interview with the Jackson players after the game, he had mentioned they said it was the exact same as it was coming down that entire game. It was miserable at that point, and they had played in it for the last hour.
Yeah, so and I think that made a lot more sense to me, because if you look at just clearing out my notebook here, Jackson 1-0, then tied 1-1. Jackson up 2-1, tied 2-2. Chillicothe goes a couple, then we're tied at 4, and then Chillicothe goes up 5-4, then tied at 5, and then Jackson wins it 6-5. Just back and forth. But as the game went on, I felt like the pitchers and the defense had to be a little bit more and more difficult. The catchers off of that turf were so good, but you think about the action those 2 pitchers are throwing at you, and you're trying to drop and block and keep the ball in front of you. I don't know, just less strikeouts, longer ABs, pressure on the defense, unforced errors. I think those are some of the things that throughout the year, these teams were so dominant to who they played. I think these 2 really brought the best out of one another, and they put pressure on each other. And I think it's going to go a long way in helping them in their respective tournament hopes. But, I thought in that Jackson win, a couple kids obviously Taylor jumped out at me, just being someone who, didn't give up an earned run, struck out 10. Yeah. But Matty Wright, the catcher with the 2 solo home runs.
The second one was absurd.
Oh, yeah. Well, Smalley had the ball that she had come off the glove in left field early in the game, and then she comes back with 2 run-scoring hits, which I thought was big time for the sophomore to come up.
Yeah, 1 in the 7th, 1 in the 9th.
Yeah,
so the game
really
tying in the 7th and the go-ahead, so game winning in the 9th.
Yeah, outstanding. And then when you come back to Wednesday night, Jackson's up 5-1. It looks like they're going to roll to the gold ball, and the Cavs come off the mat and score 6 times in that inning to win it 7-5. Eberts of Jackson did hit a home run that night. But for Chillicothe, up and down their lineup, Simpson and Blankenship with 2 RBIs, Huddleston 2 hits, including a triple and an RBI, 2 runs scored, Morgan with 2 hits and a run. Then obviously C.J. Rittiger all year long has just been incredible. Cantor behind the plate for her, been the leader there in the circle. And then, Bolton House, Jackson kind of kept her in question, but she is one of those hitters, her presence in the lineup, where every time she steps into the box, you just it has your attention. And, man, that's so good for your lineup to have that anchor piece.
Well, I thought she was a little anxious at times, but she also absolutely smoked the ball when she did. So she lined out a couple of different times where maybe she waits a little bit more, but if she waits a little bit more, maybe she's not going to see as good of a pitch as she saw in those times. And she makes such a big difference for that lineup from lengthens that lineup greatly.
What's all the home run talk we've had this year? What's the take on the fence? Like, I don't know what we set that at the VA or whatever, but the night I was watching it, I was just thinking, like, as some of these kids get bigger, faster. Like, I was watching, like, Whitty range in left field the other night. I thought she had a really good week for Chillicothe as well. Like, I mean, obviously fences in our high school fields, we're not going to move back. At the VA, we could set it wherever we want, I guess. But, like, you see what I'm saying? Like, do we need – is it time for the fences to go a little higher or to go back a little bit more? Or is it just okay that we have some home runs and some offense and that makes the game a little bit more enjoyable?
I mean, one of the things I like about the smaller fence is, like, Now, there's a couple in the district last year I saw over at Uniota where the ball was like barely getting out, like it was hitting off a glove and going out. That's where I would like to see it go up a little bit higher. But at the same time, like sometimes you're seeing just bombs. Like that second home run hit there, like that was out if we set that fence at 300 feet.
Right.
So our fence was able to be set at 215 if all the pieces were in. I think all the pieces were in. My shoulders the next day said all the pieces were in. And so I would say it was close to 215 if it wasn't exactly 215. So I think, pitchers are throwing harder.
Yep.
Players are bigger, faster, stronger, so they can pick up a little bit faster, get a little quicker bat speed to it.
Yep.
And then they've got the power to get it out over top. So I don't know. Like, I don't think it's.
Yeah.
I mean, you're still seeing games where there aren't home runs.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But I do think that it could impact games in a major way. But either way, it's. I mean, if you're not going to hit home runs, like I'm guessing. Maddie Wright, if she's just hitting doubles, is still going to make a big time impact on her team overall. But one thing I wanted to say, KJ Worsham, unbelievable play.
Worsham had a good
unbelievable play at third to end that game.
Yeah.
Because if that ball gets through, if it kicks away at all, it's a tie game, and we're probably going to the 10th.
And you could tell she almost hesitated to go at the runner coming at her, but she had the presence of mind to that internal clock we always say. I think that's the interesting thing about the defense. I think both of these teams are going to look back on this week, and they're going to look and be like, and we're a little bit better than that. We're going to have to be better than that. Like there was 2 or 3 unforced Chillicothe errors Wednesday night where they're just too good for that to happen. You know what I mean? Where it was just like it's kind of self-split, just throwing the ball point A to point B. The one time the ball popped up in the middle of the infield, no one got it. You know what I mean? It's like it's just a lot of interesting things that took place this week. The FAC's Monday, Wednesday schedule really shined there, I think, to put their softball teams on center stage.
Yeah, and I thought they were able to do it at a high level, and it sounds like we're going to host a few more softball games next year at VA Memorial Stadium as well.
That's good.
And look forward to that because it's a super fun night. And, with this Chillicothe team, they're very young as well. They graduate 3 really good seniors. But when you got your pitcher and catcher coming back, and then you've got your all-time home run leader coming back as well as some other really good pieces, it's going to make them a really fun team to watch.
Yeah, no question. I really, really enjoyed Monday night there at the VA, and neat thing to be a part of it. If you haven't had a chance to see it, I would encourage you to go back and watch an inning or two just because it does kind of show and play differently than even the baseball game does on screen there.
Yes, I agree with that completely. So let's move over to the SHAC where North Adams did something that they had never done. And I'm not 100% sure if it was first ever league title overall or if it was the big school league title. Either way, it's a league title for North Adams softball, 18-4, 11-1 in the SHAC 1. Man, they've got some great pieces coming back as well. I'll get to the pitching in a minute. Chloe Armstrong, a freshman, 547 batting average, 11 homers, 42 RBI. That's a career for a lot of high schoolers as far as 11 homers and 42 RBI. And then you've got really good pitching with Carly Garrison, Marnie Toll. Garrison, 13-3 on the season, 113 strikeouts in 93 innings. Marnie Toll is 5-1 with 50 strikeouts in 48 innings. Both pitchers are really elite ERA-wise as well. They only have 2 senior starters. Garrison, one of them, and then 2 juniors. One starts, one plays a good bit, but the rest are freshmen and sophomores. There's a lot of positives coming up in the future here for the Green Devils.
Yeah, I love the mix of old and young here for North Adams. And I think the other thing, when you talk about length or depth to a lineup, there's some cliches that we say there, but I want to put a meaning on exactly what that is, John. Like we were talking about it earlier when we were talking about McCall and Euler for Zane Trace on the baseball side. What happens is it makes it so difficult to pitch around the likes of a Chloe Armstrong because chances are when Chloe's coming to the box, there's people on base in front of her. There's people behind her protecting her. So it's one of those things where you'd be like, why you pitched it? Well, you may not have
the options.
To walk her with one out. You might be loading the bases for an all-league hitter behind her. You know what I'm saying? It's one of those types of things. So when a lineup can have some length and protection, that's real. That becomes a really, really big factor.
And then, one of those things is, Garrison hitting 420 on the season. Marty Toll hitting 342 as well. So as you said, gives some depth and protection in that lineup, and that's what makes them into a really scary team. We'll talk about one of the teams that they had on the ropes earlier in the season here in just a minute. But I want to give a shout out, Eastern Browns, Addie Airy, a 3-home run game earlier this week. 518 batting average on the season. She's got 7 home runs, 28 RBI on the season. Also in the circle, she's 8-2 with 67 strikeouts and a 1.87 ERA. Avery Tabor for the Warriors is 5-0 with 62 strikeouts and 33 innings and a 1.91 ERA. She's hitting nearly 300 with a pair of home runs, 15 RBIs. And then you have the Simpsons, Madison and Emery. Both are hitting over 430 with over a 500 OBP. Right now, the Warriors 13-3 overall, 8-3 in the SHAC. Just seems like they've got a really nice team and are really set up to possibly have a big tournament run.
Yeah, they do. It's jumping out at me throughout the softball coverage in the last 2 weeks as well. How many different teams have really started to dive into using the second and third arm? And I don't know if that's strategic. I don't know if it's just like, hey, we have this talent, we need to develop all age groups, or what. Come tournament time, they'll still have who they consider their one. But it has kind of given some depth to some teams that maybe it gives you the different chance to split a game. Maybe it gives you chances to show different looks. But as you've read through a lot of things, it's something I've paid attention to, and I've been shocked how many more teams have been willing to use the second and third girl in the circle.
Yeah, it's really, I think, added depth to some teams. And we'll talk, actually, on the Hainstall Healthcare Coaches Call-In show on Sunday night, we had one of the 3 pitchers for Piketon coming in.
There's another great example that we're going to talk about.
And that's one of the questions that we talked about was, how does that help your team, is having the variety of arms as well. So I'm really interested in having people go back and watch that as well. So, I think that's made a big positive impact for both of those teams in the SHAC as well. And then just real quick, going to pull up the some of the SHAC stuff. Like we talked about Eliana Applegate throughout this season as well. She's been unbelievable for them. 6 home runs, 36 RBI, 15 stolen bases for Manchester on the season. And then I'm just going to pull up her pitching numbers because they're kind of funny as well. But she's got 10 wins on the season, 75 strikeouts. A really good two-way player for the Greyhounds. Also on that, in the SHAC 2, it's still a little bit up in the air. Right now, Fairfield has a 1.5 lead over Peebles. Fairfield at 8-2, Riley Quickle in the circle for them. Peebles with Kaylin Musser in the circle, a really nice team as well. They're 13-4 overall, 6-3. The first time they played, Fairfield won 3-0. They will take on each other on Thursday at Peebles in what could be a league championship game.
Man, that's fun. I tell you, it's the depth to a conference, or having some of those just brings a little bit more excitement to it, and then we'll see the depth and how it plays out into the tournament. But I've mentioned in the past that I love what the SHAC has done in terms of their division and the way they've handled enrollment. That's a conference that's really onto something in terms of not only keeping their conference together moving into the next decade, but really helping it thrive.
Yeah, I'm going to say keeping it healthy and thriving as well into the future. Another team, and as we said, we had them on the Hainstall Healthcare Coaches Call-In show. Make sure you check that out. Piketon wins the gold ball. They go 14-0 in SVC play. Not every one of them was easy. They had a really tough game with Adina earlier in the week.
Yeah, Adina had a lot of opportunities, but again, give Piketon pitching. Mm-hmm. Did you think you were going to be saying that?
Right.
Give Piketon pitching a lot of credit, and I love what you're talking about on the show with the team there, because they found something that worked for them in terms of using some different arms. And we had joked so much about all the offense in the SVC. And now even on that night when Piketon and Nadine actually played a lower scoring game, wasn't it Westfall and Uniota that played first to 20 wins or whatever?
Like, first to 18.
Yeah. I mean, just nuts. Like, I'm looking down in your box score and people are getting like 7 or 8 at bats in the game and stuff. So like, no, it's just that's the way the SVC's been all year long, and Piketon's offense is carried all the way. But when it comes down to championship time, more times than not, you're going to have to pitch, you're going to have to defend, and credit to them, they were able to do that to finish off the league, and then obviously finish off the gold there with the win over Huntington, correct?
Yes.
Yep.
So congratulations to Piketon, 22-2 on the season. We'll get into their tournament seeding coming up. Adina. And this is one of the things we talked about with Coach Jadwin on the Haydenstall Healthcare Coaches Call-In Show as well, is like it feels like they're graduating just a standout each and every year, and then they are right back, in the mix for a league title. They do finish 3 games back of Piketon, but because they lost twice to Piketon, but they're also very competitive to the end. 15 wins in the regular season for them. Southeastern was 16 wins on the regular season. They finished in 3rd. Westfall and Unia tie for 4th. And then shout out to Zane Trace. Had a nice finish to the regular season for them. Winning, I believe, their last 3 games. Congratulations to Pay Valley for winning their first SVC.
4 runs in the bottom of the 7th to walk it off, 7th, right?
Yep. Claire Allen with the RBI double to win the game for the Lady Bearcats. They actually have their schedule lightens up a good bit the week before the tournament starts, so we'll see if they can add in some more wins as well. So just going to kind of go through this a little bit like we did in baseball, some quick hitters here, which would be a better for basketball. Hit and run? Is that better? Hit and run? I don't know. So, I'm not going to say that one, but
hey, real quick, I was looking at your page because you got me thinking. Just in terms of what you posted, I think Uniota's at 25 hits in that game, 18 runs, and then
well, and that was a
18,
game where
16, 10 innings.
I believe Westfall had them credited for like 23 hits, which is where it gets really crazy because sometimes you'll see like, 25. Well, usually it's not that many hits, but you'll see somebody with like the St. Trace Uniota baseball game where one team had 2, the other had it as 1.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you're going to see some differences. Yeah. 25 and 23, pretty close. I mean, that's a really high percentage of very similar. So let's move over. SOC 1 champion is Notre Dame. The Titans shockingly win another SOC 1. I saw somewhere where in the I don't think it's Tri-State. They had them ranked like 5th overall. Now it was every division, whatever. I'm like, man, if Notre Dame's the 5th best team in an area, that's a pretty good area. And it is a pretty good area as well. So, but I wouldn't sleep on them being outside the top 3 in that. So they're 22 right now, 8-0 in the SOC 1. Clay also had another nice season, 16 wins for them. In the SOC 2, Sims Valley goes unbeaten. As we said, they had 2 outstanding ball games with Eastern Pike, who's up to 17 wins on the season. SOC 3 will be Wheelersburg once again. Lucasville Valley West are coming on, having nice finishes to their season. In the FAC, as we talked about, it was Jackson, Chillicothe. They split for the league title there. Chillicothe closed in. Actually, both of them are closing in on 20 wins in the regular season. Really nice seasons for them. Said in the SHAC, North Adams gets a piece of the big school division. Small school still up for grabs that we'll see this week. If Peoples can win out, they'll get a share. At worst, a share. And then MSL Buckeye. Congratulations to Liberty Union. They are will finish I believe they'll finish it undefeated. Either way, they win their division. They go 11-0. Bloom Carroll with 2 losses, only 2 losses total in the season. Liberty Union only 1. And then you move down. Circleville and Logan Elm are 2 really talented teams as well. They're going to finish 3rd and 4th in that division. In the OVC, Ironton needs 1 more win to get a share of the OVC crown. South Point playing really well late in the year. They're 9-2 in the league. And then Colegrove and Rock Hill each have 4 losses right behind them. Colegrove lost the River State's conference newcomer of the year, Abby Deeds, an outstanding pitcher, graduated, and they still are right around 500 and 7-4 in league play. So really nicely done by their program when you lose a generational pitcher like that and you still have some really nice pieces as well. And then the TVC Ohio, Megs hasn't completely wrapped it up yet. The weather kind of impacted their ability to get in all their games, but the top 4 in that league are outstanding, with Meigs, Wellston, Athens, and Vinton County all being 7-3 or better, with Meigs at the top.
Talked about Meigs a lot last week. Yep.
And then Southern, I didn't switch these names. Southern is going to be at the top right now, 7-1 in the TVC Hawking. Eastern Meigs and Trimble each 7-2. But Southern right now is 13-1 overall as well. So we'll look to talk about them a little bit more in the future as well.
Yeah, that's why I know we're going to run down the brackets here. So I was just kind of listening to some of the league standings, and we don't want to be too repetitive. We're going to talk about a lot of those teams here on their bracket.
Yeah, then let's jump over when we go into the brackets. Let's jump first at Division 3, which will be 1 seed Chillicothe. Congratulations to the Cavaliers there, 19-3 on the season. They're going to be the 1 seed. Now, this is going to be just like in basketball, where you're going to have to match up with someone from the East. So you're going to have what you're going to see when you look at the bracket is going to be the Southeast. So Chillicothe on the 20th will play the winner of Untitled and Miami Trace at Logan High School, May 20th. The winner will move on the 21st to Ohio University to play in a district championship game against a team from the East District, which we will see at a later date and time. And then moving down the bracket, the 2 seed Sheridan will host Washington on May 14th, while Athens will host Marietta also on May 14th. The winners of those will match up on May 20th at Logan High School. Once again, the winner there will move on to face a team from the East on May 21st at Ohio University.
Yeah, the Chillicothe is where you got to start with on this bracket. I think they're locked and loaded for a nice run here. They obviously have the incredible pitcher. They have the lineup that can produce top to bottom. I think the 2 Jackson games late in the year really battle test them a little bit in terms of it shows them a little bit where they need to get better. But at the same time, it gives them a lot of confidence that they can come from behind and do some things there. So I really like them there. And then as you get down there to the bottom, you mentioned some of the depth of the TVC Ohio. If Athens can get by Marietta, it'd be interesting to see if they couldn't at least challenge Sheridan. But from everything I was reading a couple weeks back, the Sheridan team seems to be pretty good.
Yeah, Addison Williams has 7 home runs to lead Athens. Obviously, if you've looked at their total number of 7, she would lead them with 7 home runs. She has multiple games this year with 2 or multiple home runs as well. So she has a big bat for the Bulldogs and can really make a big impact if you get a chance, especially in a game that could be really tight. And typically tournament games, really pitcher heavy, can be really tough.
And in fairness to Marietta, Athens got to get past them too. Remember what I said about the bigger schools? Mm-hmm. Whenever you're into a Division III, John, and you've got a 13-win Marietta team, that tells you there's some pretty good athletes there. So not going to be easy for Athens to get by that one. But if they can, they get their shot at Sheridan.
Yeah, this is not going to be – we're going to talk about it a little bit at the end as far as the RPI goes. But this is one where if the RPI wasn't involved, Untitled actually beat Athens 10-1 a couple of weeks ago. Yep. But Athens is going to go in with a better record and probably a little stronger overall schedule, and that's why they end up with the 3 over Untitled, who gets the 4. But either way, you're going to have to face either Sheridan or Chillicothe in the second round. So have fun with that one way or another. So let's move over to Division 4. Division 4 will feature, let me see real quick. Now I'm putting in my timestamps as we go along. So I'll talk
Jackson.
Jackson will be at the top, 18-6. They get the 1 seed. They will host the winner of Waverly and McLean, who play on May 12th. They'll host them on May 14th. Man, this is an outstanding bracket. I mean, we get one team out in the Southeast District, the 2 seed is going to be Logan Elm, who went to the Final Four a couple years ago, has a lot of those players back. They will host the winner of Vinton County and Fairfield Union. Fairfield Union, as we said, Ella Harmon, who's going to go play Division I softball. Big time bat for them. Vinton County will show a little bit of that TVC Ohio depth. We'll see where they're at. The winner of that will take on Logan Elm at Logan Elm on May 14th. Also on May 14th, the 3 seed Circleville will host the winner of Gallia Academy in Hillsboro. Hillsboro seemingly has gotten things kind of worked out late in the season. A really rough start for them, but they've played really well late in the year. Remember, that was a state runner-up team last year that graduated pretty much everybody. And then the 4-5 will be South Point, the winner of South Point and Warren, each with 15 wins on the season. And that's where those two may have a little bit of a bone to pick with the RPI, because they're both going to come in with 15 wins and being behind Circleville with 11 wins on the season as well. But that's where the RPI...
Just different to who you're playing, the size of schools and some of those different things. You know, things stay as planned in terms of the seeding. You know, obviously you're going to get the rivalry of Logan Elm and Circleville. Again, this is assuming no upsets. You're going to get that rivalry, which is always intense. And then if everything holds out and you get to that Jackson Logan Elm matchup, that should be an elite game as well. But obviously, we're both high on Jackson. They more than deserve that 1 seed. But man, you know as well as I do, Logan Elm, Circleville just lurking down there out of the schedule they play against. That's going to be tough.
And those games will be played, those district semifinal and final games, May 18th and May 21st at Logan High School as well. So if you're like my teams, whenever we played there, you will be hitting the ball into the creek. I don't know if I've told you about that, where we never hit the ball behind the third base dugout. And then we played up at Logan, where there's a creek behind the third base dugout, and we hit like 17 foul balls into it. That's the kind of things that happen in baseball specifically. But now let's move over to the Division 3 or Division 5 bracket. And it's getting late in the day, and I still have another show to host. So, shockingly, the number 1 seed here would be the defending state champion Wheelersburg Pirates, 15-3 on the season. They will not have to play until the district semifinal. There's 3 district champions here in Division 5. Wheelersburg will move on to Ohio University, where they will host on May 18th the winner of Northwest and Westfall. Westfall has shown the ability to really score some runs. The run prevention has not been very good for them this year, but that's not the super most fun team to have to play between Northwest and Westfall for that first round. The second game would be on the 22nd. We'll stay in that bracket really quick. The 6th seed, Wellston, at 15-5. They will host River Valley, who's the 19 on the 13th. Eastern Brown, here's a drive. Eastern Brown will host Chesapeake on May 13th at 5 p.m. The winners of those 2 games will go on to Ohio University. What do you think on this? It looks like it's the Southeast District 3.
When we think of the round that we've known as the sectional championships, I think for some of those programs, getting themselves to the Ohio University stage is a big deal. If seeds hold down there at the bottom, I think that Wellston Eastern Brown matchup could be really, really good at Ohio University. That's going to give them a chance to basically play for a district runner-up, because let's face it, I mean, Wheelersburg is going to be the team to beat there. Yeah. But again, there's still other things to play for throughout the track. So if I'm Wellston and I'm Eastern Brown, I view that as an opportunity to finish maybe in a district runner-up and at least put my kids in that environment of going up against Wheelersburg.
Yeah, that gives you a great opportunity to maybe take on the champs with a chance to get some hardware as well. And that's always a great opportunity. So now the 2 seed, this is going to be in the Southeast District 2 district. The 2 seed Megs will have to host a game, because I believe only the 1 seed got a bye. Okay. Megs would have to host a game. They would host the 23 seed Fairland on May 13th. These games would all be on the 13th. Megs, Fairland winner would then go to Ohio University then on the 19th to take on the winner of Colgrove and Rock Hill, which will be playing for the third time for a chance to get to the district semifinal and take on the winner of Meigs and Fairland. Then, as you move down, the 5 seed North Adams at 18-4 will take on Alexander, who's got some really nice athletes at 4-13. The winner of that game will take on the winner of Southeastern, the 8 seed at 16-6, and Oak Hill at 6-5. Those teams would move on to Ohio University to play on the 19th. So the winners there would play. So 4 o'clock, 6 o'clock game on May 19th. The winners would move on to the 22nd for a chance at the district title. What are your thoughts on that bracket?
Megs obviously sets the standard here at 19-1, but this isn't undoable for some of these teams at the bottom. North Adams, you just highlighted them in your coverage as the SHAC champion. Watch out for the Southeastern team. I really think that Kylie Williams, when she's on, has the ability to be a pitcher that can win at this level. They have big-time base stealers, Turner, Fisher, Brown. They have some big bats in that lineup as well, led by Skaggs and even Williams as a hitter as well.
Lydia Williams as
and then the other Williams. So, this is a team that when they click, they can play at that level. So that's just the team that I would put a little star next to in terms of if I was looking. That's the first team that jumps out that would be maybe not what the seed would tell you that like, oh, wait a minute, that team could do this.
Mm-hmm. And then we've got one to kind of keep an eye on. May 20th, a possibility. Now, things have to play out that way. But in the Southeast 1 district, Piketon is the 3 seed, 22-2. They will host West Union on May 13th. If they win that game, they would move on to Ohio University on May 20th. The 10 seed is Portsmouth, finished 9-11 on the season. They will host New Lexington, another fun trip there. New Lexington to Portsmouth. That also on May 13th. The winners will move on. That 22-2 for Piketon, one of the two. Portsmouth. So now, granted, they played twice. The first one wasn't close, but the second one was a 4-3 win for Portsmouth. Which Portsmouth team shows up? The team that Piketon beat in the first game, or the team that beat Piketon in the second game? They would have to get through New Lexington. Piketon would have to get through West Union. But at least there's some like storyline stuff. There's some narrative stuff there that can make things a little more interesting on that side. And then you move down. You got Ironton hosting Huntington. They might be confused on that. If Huntington was the home seed, where would Ironton go? Would they go across the river 5 minutes, or would they come up? Would they come up to Chillicothe and play in that? So Ironton will host Huntington in their first round. Ironton obviously has some outstanding talent. Looks like they're gonna win the OVC. On the other end, the winner of Ironton and Huntington will take on the winner of the 9th-seeded Dina Warriors, who have won 15 games once again. Will take on Zane Trace, who, as we said, has won 3 straight outings.
Yeah, I don't know that Adina can absolutely love Zane Trace showing up there in the bracket just because of how Zane Trace has played in the last probably 7 to 10 days of the season, starting to play better. There's a lot of offensive potential in this bracket. Obviously, we know how Piketon can swing it from the side of Valley Conference. We know how Adina can swing it. Ironton's a team there in the middle. You mentioned Portsmouth is dangerous or whatever. Another wide open bracket, but an opportunity for Piketon to really set a tone if their pitching can do what it's starting to show signs of doing, because they're going to hit. Same way down there at the bottom. If those seeds hold, Ironton Adina, that could be an outstanding matchup there on May 20th at Ohio University in that second game. So a lot of things to watch for. Could it be Piketon Ironton? Could it be an all-SVC Piketon Adina? That's been so fun the first 2 times. Who's going to argue with that a third time?
Exactly. But if we get Ironton and Piketon, you're going to have 2 of the elite home run hitters.
That's true.
Adina's Joe Jett with 12 home runs. Camille Martin for Ironton, who will be going to play at a little school known as Duke, has 10 home runs on the season and is hitting .553 on the season for the Fighting Tigers, who went 2 extras with Wheelersburg last week as well. Some great pictures from our Raymond Gladle on that one as well. So check those out on our socials as well. So
Has he ever taken a picture where you've said that's a bad picture?
yes,
Oh, you have.
I wouldn't tell him that.
Oh, okay.
Because no, I don't know if I've seen a bad one because that dude he's so locked in at all times. We were fortunate enough to get him up at the VA this weekend as well. So he took some really cool pictures. I'm sure Coach Ehlers at Shawnee State wasn't real pumped about all the pictures with the dog in there when on Saturday, but they had a dog right by the dugout, and so they celebrated with the dog. So why not? Yeah. Why wouldn't you celebrate with a dog? Speaking of dogs, check out the Haystal Healthcare Coaches Call-In show from Sunday night if you missed it for the dog. So yeah, we'll see. So 3 district champions coming out of Division 3. Man, there's
Division 5.
Division
You're dating
5.
yourself still. You got to get used to the 7 division.
Yeah.
But again, it goes back to the point we were trying to tell people to calm down on. It's basically Division 3.
Yeah, we'll stick with that. I was wrong. We could just stick with I was wrong. But let's jump over to Division 6. I want to make sure I got that one right. Yeah. In Division 6, the 1 seed will be Lucasville Valley. The Indians have had an outstanding season. They've got an outstanding pitcher in the circle, and that's why they end up being the 1 seed at 13-6. Their district games will be played at Untitled. They will face the winner on May 19th between South Webster and Nelsonville York, who will be in the 8-9 games. Then, it's not going to be easy at all. This is May 19th at 6 p.m. That might be a game I'm going to sign up to cover. Peebles is the 4 seed. They will host Federal Hockey. Fun trip. They will host Federal Hockey. Ooh. I get to the 5-12 on this one. Peebles will host Federal Hockey in the 4-13 game. In the 5-12 game, Fairfield will host Belpre. That's the ooh on that. That's about. I mean, if they only had to go to Whiteoak, I think that might be the only place that is further for the Golden Eagles. But if you get a third game and a third matchup between Peebles and Fairfield, which is a distinct possibility at Untitled on May 19th in a district semifinal, could be a really fun night.
Yeah, that's the one that kind of jumps out at me there. I think as a 5 seed that Fairfield becomes really dangerous there all the way out. I think Valley obviously going to set the standard across the top there, but Peebles, Fairfield know each other really well. But you were highlighting some pitching numbers earlier. I think Fairfield becomes really dangerous in that bracket.
Yeah, it should be a really fun bracket. Some elite pitchers on that side for sure. You got some really good athletes coming up from South Webster as well if they can get out. It's been kind of a rough season, but they've got some kids that have won a lot in different sports. And then either way, May 22nd, you're going to have 2 district championship games at Untitled. The first one will feature that Southeast District 1 bracket. And then let's move down to the Southeast District 2 bracket. Eastern Pike is the 2 seed, 17-4. They've more than earned their way there. Manchester is the 7 seed. They will host Paint Valley on May 12th. And then moving down the bracket, the 3 seed will be the Senators from Portsmouth West, 13-8 on the season, a district champion from a season ago. They will face the winner of Lynchburg Clay and Ripley in the 6-11 game. Those semifinals will be on the 20th. The finals will be on the 22nd.
Yeah, I think that that Portsmouth West team again is kind of sneaky. You had just called off Valley's name, in the previous bracket, and here's Portsmouth West lingering. We've watched where Eastern has gone toe to toe with some really good teams this year. We highlighted the slugfest and the walk-off there with the great Sims Valley team.
Yep.
But so they're obviously going to be battle-tested and ready to go. But if you get that Eastern Portsmouth West district championship, that would be a good one.
Yeah, it's. I'm looking forward to probably getting out for those games just overall, just based on where I am and where we'll be at the VA at the time. We won't be into games quite yet over there for the boys.
I'd love to be able to do some softball stuff. A lot of it just matters on where it's at and what we have available.
Yep, and what we have available is a big part of that. So we will see. So keep your eyes and ears out on that for maybe an announcement coming up in the future. So let's move to Division 7. In Division 7, the 1 seed will be, surprise, surprise, the Titans of Notre Dame. Now 20-2, 19-2 on the bracket. They will host the winner of Miller and Whiteoak, who play on the 13th, to go play at Wellston on the 18th.
The same as I was saying with Wheelersburg. You know, John, when you're in a bracket like that, you know, they set such a standard, Notre Dame does, that it makes it tough to get past them. But you have to look at it from, okay, well, what can our program accomplish? So it's the same exact thing I was referencing. If you're a team like Clay down there in the bottom of that bracket, you've got a great opportunity to get all the way out to district final. Now, you obviously know better than anyone how good Notre Dame is because you've had to go toe-to-toe with them. But it allows your kids to get to that stage. If you do fall, you get a district runner-up, a medal. And if you have kids coming back, it kind of lets them know, okay, wait a minute, here's the level we have to get to in order to get past this. Or even better yet, sometimes it might be have a little bit better regular season, so you're not in that bracket in the first place, and then everything opens wide. So there's just a lot to learn from every experience. I think that Eastern, the Reedsville group there at 500, I think they're a dangerous team, and that's one that Clay certainly doesn't want to look past.
Yeah, Clay and Eastern Reedsville both are outstanding teams. Reedsville's going to come in at 11-11, but man, they can really score some runs. Clay does it really well pitching, but also they can score as well. Notre Dame, the prohibited favorite in this side. You know, you have the rushes back. You have Ford, Schaefer, Sword as well. You've got some outstanding pieces for Notre Dame. They're hopeful for another chance at a state championship, and I think they've got a great chance to at least get out of the district. But at the same time, Clay and Eastern Reedsville are nothing to kind of sneeze at if you are the Titans. So moving down to Southeast 2, Sims Valley at 21-2 is the 2 seed. They will take on the winner of Green and East, who will take that game will take place on May 13th. The winners will go to Wellston on May 19th to take on Sims Valley, who's an outstanding team, program, everything. Really hopeful to make a breakthrough for them and their program as well. And then on the other side, this is where it gets really interesting. Southern is the 3 seed at 13-1 on the season. They're probably going to win the TVC hockey or at least get a share of it. They will take on the winner of Trimble and Waterford. Waterford is only a half game behind them for the TVC hockey. So they're going to really know who Southern is going to know whoever they play, but whoever they play is also going to know Southern really well as well, making that a really tough way for them to get to a district championship game where they would most likely take on Sims Valley.
Yeah, that's interesting there because the number of games is what jumps out at me. When you see some of these teams only at 14 games, you see other teams well up into the 20s already. That's interesting. But Sims Valley, we rattled off some of their numbers over the last couple weeks on the show. The home runs they've hit, the ability to pitch, the ability to win tight games, the ability just to blow out opponents. I think they're a really dangerous team, and I haven't been able to look out to the regional bracket, but I think Sims Valley and Notre Dame, if they hold serve there and they represent us out of that division, that's a really good opportunity to be represented in the Final Four again.
Yeah, I would agree with that completely. I think it's definitely a great opportunity for our teams in the Southeast District. I like our opportunity to get multiple teams to Akron once again. We've got 5 divisions, 5 great chances to do so. I would think that we've got an excellent opportunity to get 2, maybe 3 schools on, and it would be awesome if we were able to.
I would agree with that. You look up and down the bracket. I think that level is played. There's a couple divisions where you just wonder, will they pitch at a high enough level when you start getting into the district final, regional semifinal levels? But in that level, for Notre Dame and Sims Valley, I think the answer is yes.
Yeah, I would agree with that completely. So I was going to talk about the RPI this week, but I want to wait till next week when the baseball comes out.
Baseball's coming
and they
without it,
and they
correct?
don't
Yeah.
use the RPI. So yeah, let's talk about that next week. So
Okay.
we'll punt that to next week. Next week's show, we will tape on Monday as opposed to Sunday because it's Mother's Day. We're going to celebrate our mothers on Mother's Day as well. So we're going to wait. We're going to come back in here on Monday, and that show will come out on Tuesday of next week. But we'll break down the baseball brackets at length there. We'll preview a couple of these big-time softball matchups coming into that week because things will get pretty interesting in that aspect. So really looking forward to that. This really should be a really fun week of baseball. A lot of leagues are finishing up this week, if not this week, early next week. So what are your kind of thoughts overall on the upcoming week here in baseball and softball?
I think for baseball, it's all about setting the table. You know, if you're still in a league race, obviously you're going, but most of those have been pretty well decided. So by the time you get to the end of the week, you're starting to look at, man, how are we going to prepare? Because some of the teams, as we see in this bracket for softball, is going to have quite some time off. So at softball, you're a week ahead of that. Some of these elite programs are going to have to decide how are we going to handle this, especially if we've already played 23 times. There's not a whole lot left on the schedule. There's going to be some downtime for some people. So that's something that maybe would be interesting if you get a chance on some upcoming call-in shows to just ask some coaches, do you get concerned about that as you go? Because hitting's all about timing. All of a sudden, you don't get live at-bats. I remember when we made the regional 2 or 3 times, we'd always have that break of like 10 days. I was miserable.
Yeah.
Like, you know, just in terms of trying to keep kids in the live action and so forth.
Oh, we got to get ready for the regional.
Well, the point I'm saying is
I
like
know
you don't
exactly,
have like
it's not normal.
Like
it's completely
like
different.
Sims Valley, for example, they played 23 times. So like how many times they play this week, I don't know. I haven't seen their schedule, but like then they're going to sit around and wait for who knows how long.
Now that could be like where the weather hasn't impacted. It
hasn't.
Like oh, we'll just push games back to the end. Well, the weather hasn't been an impact.
Now you are allowed to keep, just to be clear, you are allowed to keep those games throughout, and you can still play even if you get into the tournament and so forth. Some people even go as far to keep a scrimmage back, and you can use. So there are some things you can do there, but I just think that's interesting because now obviously your teams like Wheelersburg, Notre Dame, it's not their first rodeo. They've experienced this before and they know how to handle it. But we talk about all the time, like, gosh, especially in softball. Baseball, I guess you appreciate it because of the pitch count. You want to be able to use your pitchers as many times as you can. What is it usually? The district final and the regional final, you can't?
Right.
If you've used them, probably?
Yeah.
Okay.
So now I kind of throw out something to you. Last year, Lynchburg and Untitled played between the regionals and the state because they had a long time off.
Yeah.
Lynchburg just put it to Untitled.
Yeah.
I just remember hearing a couple of the kids were like, "Why are we playing this game? Why?" Like,
Yeah.
do you think you get so amped up or ramped up on some of those games that like you'd rather just not play? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what the answer is. Now, I think going up until the district final, probably into the regional. I don't know. We would play the couple times I coached teams that got to the regional. We had games left, but one year we didn't play. One year we did play. Well, the year we did play, we were not a favorite going into the regional. I thought we played better.
Yeah.
The other year we were a favorite and we didn't play very well.
Yeah.
We didn't play. So I don't know, like, but you don't want the kids to, you know, if they struggle in the game, if like I think it was Lynchburg won like 11-3, something like that. I feel like you don't, like, maybe your kids kind of lose confidence going into that last game, or it's like, what's coach doing? Like, we need to just have an hour practice or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know what the right
that's
answer is
tough.
because especially when you have seniors too that are getting ready to be done. I don't know.
Or they've already graduated, most
Yeah.
likely. At that point, they've graduated. Like,
Would you think it would be crazy if you just said, "Hey, our team's gonna be really good this year. Your team's gonna be really good next year. Let's just keep the games scheduled. Let's keep games scheduled for the regional, we just don't put them out anywhere. Maybe you tell the kids, like, hey, we do have these games scheduled. If the games are already scheduled, I think kids don't care.
Yeah.
Now, if
That's interesting.
if,
I don't know.
if you come out of practice on Monday and say, hey, we're playing whoever on Tuesday, they're like, oh, they already had plans or something. Like, we got plans at 5 o'clock.
That's interesting. I guess you got to know your team because a lot of times, though, I will say this: I think kids would rather play.
I would think so.
Than practice.
But playing also is a long night.
Yeah, I think you have to know your team. You have to know your. You made an interesting point about the seniors because if you have 7 seniors in the starting lineup and they graduated last week, you know what I mean.
Right.
It's one of those things too where you're just trying to keep them. Afloat to get through the process and still have your best foot forward. There's a lot that goes into it in spring sports for sure. This is a long process. There becomes a break here coming up and then another break if you're lucky enough to win. And a lot of that is the Southeast District in relation to the Central District. I wish they could figure out a way to patch that up a little bit.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. So you got anything else?
A lot of fun coming up. Look forward to doing it. I can't wait to get back on some of the calls because I think we're going to have some good ones. Yeah,
I'm looking forward to that, and we'll announce all of that coming up here in the next few days as well. Keep an eye out on all of our socials. Check out the Haynesville Healthcare Coaches Call-In Show that was taped on Sunday night. Was a great episode. It might have been a bad episode. I don't know. We're taping in an hour, so that's the movie magic. Whatever. Yes. So thanks for dealing with me ranting earlier in the episode.
That was fun.
Yeah, I'm worn out from it. So
it was good for you to do that this week because I thought it was a little bit your fault last week that I got going on prom.
Yeah, it was. That was kind of. I kind of had that planned out. So some more movie magic. We have we have our discussions that are typed out, and then right before the show, I'll just here's another discussion. That's what happened. That's what happened with prom last week. Now, me ranting about the pace of play was scheduled. So the track. But
I'll be honest, I didn't know you were going that route. On the pace of play, I didn't know that was good stuff.
I've talked to a lot of people off air, and they know how I feel about it a lot.
Well, I think people, in fairness to John, he has some late nights at the VA, so he's feeling it in terms of all aspects of all matchups. In terms of hey, I really could have been home a half hour ago.
Hey,
you know what I mean?
And today we had a 10-inning league or conference championship game between a team that probably has 2 more games ever in NAIA, and they are leaving this conference, so they want to kind of, in a way, stick it to the conference that they're leaving by winning it. It was a 5-4 10-inning game, and it was less than 3 hours. And then I've been at games that have been 4-3, 7 innings, 3 hours. I'm like,
before you know it, if John Bruce is ahead of the OHSAA, we're going to start having the junior high rule, on the 2 hour. Hey, time limit.
No, I ain't doing time. I don't like time limit. But if you don't get out, in 2 minutes, you're not ready to play. It's a ball or a strike, whatever.
Ball one.
Yeah, ball one. Hey, we'll call it. Just get in the box. Let's go. All right, for Shayne Combs, I'm John Bruce. You've been watching SOSA Overtime, presented by Perfection One. Have a great rest of your week.